March Madness fever is in the air, and for the first time in a while, Ohio will have two teams competing in the big dance, Xavier and Kent State. Today, I'll break down their season and what they have to do to get the victory tomorrow for Xavier against Kennesaw State and for Kent State against Indiana. Hello, everyone. I'm Mahirson Hassan, and welcome to a special March Madness edition of Buckeye Sports Breakdown, a show about teams from the great state of Ohio. A lot to talk about, fresh off the top. So, without further ado, let's get to it. And we'll start off with Xavier, the Muskies, back in the tournament for first time in a while, first time in the post-Chris Mack era, and with their their former head coach, Sean Miller. Of course, for Miller, this is going to be his 12th appearance in the Big Dance, fifth with Xavier, led the Muskies to the Big Dance from 2006 all the way till 2009. Let's take a look at Xavier's opponent, which will be at Kennesaw State. That one will be going down at 12:40 Eastern on what should be TBS, I believe. I will also have a live react for that game right here on my YouTube page. Again, Kennesaw State making the tournament for their first time in their history, has been in Division I since the 2009-2010 season, and this is essentially what has been a dream season for them. Has been towards the bottom of the ASUN standings throughout their time in Division I. This is the first time they played in the final, and thus the first time they go to the tournament as they beat Liberty by a point to advance to the Big Dance. Again, led by their head coach, Amir Abdul-Rahim. This is his fourth season with the team, was an assistant at Texas A&M from 2014 to 2018, which included two appearances in the round of 16. So a big game for him, big game for Kennesaw State. And of course, their head coach has experience. Now you look at Xavier, and I was filling in brackets, and some people were chatting with me online, especially on TikTok, when I put my predictions in. By the way, on TikTok, I have Xavier going to the Sweet 16. But some people are saying, you know what, Iowa State can beat Xavier. Mississippi State can beat Xavier. Some people are saying Kennesaw State can beat Xavier. I'm watching Princeton, Arizona right now. That game is a dogfight. I mean, Arizona is not playing good. And trust me, I'm at ASU. I'm used to the Pac-12. Arizona has been stagnant and absolutely great in that league this entire year. And boy, oh boy, it just shows you the greatness of March Madness. And of course, Kent State has a chance to pull upset against a great, potent Indiana side tomorrow. More on that later. But back towards Xavier, they went to the conference championship game, played Marquette, and to quote Megan Thee Stallion, if you watch the first half, they could build a house with all the brick they got, just shooting the ball, and it was just going right off the glass or right off the rim. Nothing was falling for them in favor. If you just look at the stats for this game, it feels like a dream. It feels like you woke up from a bad dream. Adam Kunkel led the squad with 14 points. But when you look at the main guys for the Xavier side, you have Colby Jones, a guy who went off earlier in this tournament and off this entire regular season with only 7 points. Jack Nungy with 6 points. And Soleil Boom, the sharpshooter, 1 singular point. That's it. Interestingly enough, though, shooting-wise is I think it was pretty equal between Xavier and Marquette. Xavier went 34.4 from the field, Marquette 36.1. But of course, Marquette got a lot more free throws, which caused the final to be a score of 65-51 in favor of the Golden Eagles. So with that being said, it will be interesting for Xavier in general to try to manage that, and I think try to rebound as well. You know, you have an off game where you played a DePaul side, sure, that beat you earlier in the year, but at the same time, it's close, and it's at Madison Square Garden in your first game of the conference tournament. And then you flip a switch and you play well against Creighton, beat them by more than 20. And at the same time, I don't know. And it happens against Marquette. So even if Xavier were to get a win today, or rather tomorrow against Kennesaw State, there is a question of if this team can really be a contender going forward. So simply put, I think for the game on Friday, get off to a flying start. And I think more importantly, be consistent, because in some games where Xavier's been a little bit close, I know it's been against UConn and Marquette, but hey, this is March. Anything can happen. And Kennesaw State won their conference, so they've got experience as well. I should preface, I'm looking over here because Princeton and Arizona are playing, and it's a 1-point game right now. Again, being an ASU student, I want Arizona to go out, to be honest with you. I also have the Wildcats going to the championship in a few of my brackets, so it will be heartbreaking for a few, but hey, to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind. Long three by Arizona's off. I mean, Wildcats have been rough in this game, to be honest with you. All right, back to Ohio sports there, as you can ignore my tangent. But nonetheless, you look at how Xavier does, and I think for me, what gives Xavier some hope, in my opinion, is how they played away from Cintas Center. It feels like in the Chris Mack era, this team was electric at Cintas, and it's still the case now. They're amazing. But when they go on the road, you see the crevices, you see the struggles, and that's the problem with this team. And yet, they're able to get wins against teams like UConn, against teams on the road. They're willing to take that up a level. So that's my one give or take, I would say. But you're playing Pitt, you're playing Iowa State. Should you win against Kennesaw State tomorrow? And the other point about it, too, a kind of a benefit for the Musketeers is the fact that you're playing in Greensboro, North Carolina. For those who don't know, that's about a 7-hour drive from Xavier and the Cincinnati area, about 5.5-hour drive from Kennesaw State, which is in northern Atlanta. And it's close to / much more than what Iowa State and Pitt will be facing on their trip down to Greensboro. The Cyclones are 15.5 hours away, so the equivalence of a Midwest road trip away from Greensboro, and Pitt is 7 hours away. So again, a road trip for almost everybody else in the country. So again, for the most part, the winner should get a decent advantage going forward in what should be a great game overall. Again, will be a toss-up, but I'm confident that if Xavier really shows their presence tomorrow, it's going to give me some good hope for what we're going to see on Sunday. Hopefully, and the off and on syndrome that the Muskies have been in for a few games now, even in the latter stages of the regular season, hopefully it will subside and we're going to see the Muskies at their best. Now on to Kent State's game, and like I said earlier, this is going to be a game you want to get your popcorn ready for. Two great offenses led by two great offensive players, Sincere Carey for Kent State, Trace Jackson Davis for Indiana. It's going to be a back and forth type game. For Kent State, they're coming off a great performance in the MAC championship against Toledo. 93-78, they won by 15 points. Simply put, that team in the second half was locked and loaded. This team was ready to go to battle. They're an electric company. And when I mean electric company, you do not want to guess what they're going to do from behind the arc. They are going to rip you to pieces. And that's what they've done throughout the season. And even in some close games, such as Houston, where they only put up 44, but in the end, Houston only scored 49. This is a team that is quite competitive, have been around the top 75 in net ranking this year, compared to other mid-major teams who a lot of people are saying, you know, like Drake's going to beat Miami, or even though College of Charleston lost today, I mean, a lot of people were predicting them to beat San Diego State. When you look at a lot of these 12 teams, 13 seed teams that have this great record, and a lot of people are picking them, Kent State's kind of a sleeper. And I think they have a better resume than a lot of those other teams. Like I said, lost to Houston by 5, lost to Gonzaga by 7. Both of those on the road, and both of those teams title contenders. And I think for Indiana too, especially over the past few games, they've been very wavery, very similar to Xavier in ways where they come up with a commanding lead and a commanding strike, but then on the other side, they just get upended and upset. That's what happened in the Big Ten semifinal as Penn State beat them. Close game down the stretch, but the Nittany Lions just had their number. And I think in ways, when you look at how that happens, I think for Kent State, it starts off with the defense. Sure, you can have a full off gunslinger game in Albany, but I think to get that type of impact for this team, you have to really test them. You really have to test an Indiana side that's been really good. I mean, Trace Jackson Davis, don't get me wrong, was an absolute beast during the regular season. I watched him play when the Hoosiers played the Muskies, and he was all over the floor. Probably one of the best basketball players I've seen this entire year. And then on the other side, you need a guy that can shapeshift like Jackson Davis, and you've got sincere carry over there. But I think the interesting thing about this side of the bracket is anybody can really go to the Sweet 16. And it's not the idea of, oh, this is an upset or not. It's the idea that genuinely anybody can win this. You got Drake playing a Miami side that was number one in the ACC in the regular season. And then you got an Indiana side that could have played Purdue in the final. And knowing how Penn State took it to Purdue, who knows? Indiana could be Big Ten champs had it gone their way. So it will be really interesting to see those games for Kent State too. Little chip on their shoulder, first time going to the big dance since 2017, trying to make the round of 32 for the first time since 2002. So a lot of those players weren't even born. So a chance to make history for Kent State, a chance to make history for Ohio as well. Akron represented the Buckeye State last year, lost to UCLA in a close one. And then Ohio, the Bobcats, beat Virginia, who kind of lost in a stupid way earlier today against Furman. Nonetheless, Ohio was able to advance to the round of 32. Maybe we get one. For all you know, hopefully we get two Ohio teams, Xavier and Kent State, winning their first round matchup and on their way to the round of 32. Thanks for tuning in to this special episode of Buckeye Sports Breakdown, March Madness edition. We hope that you tune in to all of the games, including Xavier's, which will be at 12:40 Eastern, and Kent State's, which will be at 9:55 Eastern. I'm Mahir Hassan, and have a great day.